Okay, we're about to get started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do it. Stream. Why is it not saying I'm streaming? Live. Dude, I don't hear nothing.
More lower head. Oh no, I got plenty in there. I just had to turn it on. Oh no, I got plenty in there. I just had to turn it on. Peace, can you hear me? Peace, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh man, peace.
What the hell is going on? What the hell is that? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Everything was working good. What just happened? What was that? Oh, we got gremlins in the house, y'all. What's going on? Peace, 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 peace. Can you hear me? Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's why it pays to do a last minute sound check. And that's why it doesn't pay to be running around before you gotta do a show. Hint, hint. Looking at you. Don't say nothing. What's going on, everybody? This is URR Radio. You're now listening to TalkShoe.com. This is TalkShoe show number 12874. Don't forget that 0. What's going on, everybody? I don't even know if this thing is going to be working properly. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. I don't even know. So we're gonna find out. Just give me 1 second. Let me jump on this OBS real quick. I don't know what. It was sounding garbled. That's how it was sounding on. I don't know what's going on, man. Gremlins, dog. Gremlins, dog. Them gremlins, dog. It's after. What time is it? Oh, it's almost midnight, man. Somebody gave him some water or something. What, you fed him? You feed him? You feed him? Okay. Alright, let me just throw this on. Let's throw on the OBS. Let's go to the capture. I think we're screen sharing now. I hope. Oh boy, I hope. I'm not even sure if this is going right. I'm looking at the tester. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Alright, let's get started off. Give me 1 quick second. What's going on with you, man? Alright. Hold on. Let me just put this audio input capture. Right. Everything from my sound card. We're going to try this one more time. Hopefully this works. Hopefully this works, because I don't know what the hell just happened. Alright, let's try this one more time. I'm going to turn on the screen capture. Alright, let's make sure that's on. You gotta give me a second, man. I'm still trying to figure this program out, so maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Just give me 1 second, because there's a slight delay. You can see it? Okay. No, I'm not talking to myself. I got somebody in my ear. You ever have somebody talking in your ear? Literally? But they're not really there? Yeah, you're somewhere. Yeah. You're in another state and I'm in New York. Alright, so let's try this. This is from today. Let me give a special shout out to Grindall61. Grindall61, Grindall 61. This is his YouTube channel right here. If I'm not mistaken, he's from California. He does a lot of activist work, and what he caught today, I gotta share this with y'all. Let me give a shout out to the Organic Kid Organic. He spoke on this a couple of hours ago. You can catch that upload in our archive, excuse me. Excuse my English. Okay, yeah, let's try this one more again. Let's go to OBS one more time, and let me mute my mic. I think that's my mic. Excuse my English. Okay, yeah, let's try this one more again.
Today is December the 18th, 2018. We are in downtown Los Angeles for the LA County Board of Supervisors meeting. They are holding a Truth Act forum. This is our third such forum, as we were previously in San Bernardino and Riverside counties. We are here today because we are here to see the newly elected sheriff of LA County, Alex Villanueva.
And 2 points that I want to leave with you. One is that we are going to physically remove ICE from the county jails.
My name is Mellow Desire, representing South LA. Particularly, I have no problems with brothers and sisters who want to seek asylum in a country that gives more freedom. But what I don't tolerate is that when we don't have resources for Black Americans, especially Native Americans, where because we can't even get jobs because we don't speak Spanish, you wouldn't go to China and expect the Chinese to conform to American. You wouldn't dare do that. So why is it okay here in America? We believe in unification and helping people going through the struggle. The thing is, if you step over us and people like organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, where we can't even have civil rights attorneys to help American issues that most of the lawyers are going to help immigration. I mean, come on, we don't have any resources here at all in South LA, particularly because a lot of the housing goes to our Latin counterparts and our blacks are left out. I'm just speaking neutral. I'm not speaking against our counterparts, but we got to be fair and we got to pay attention to all of it.
Time has expired. Today is December the 18th, 2018. We are in downtown Los Angeles for the LA County Board of Supervisors meeting. They are holding a Truth Act forum. This is our third such forum, as we were previously in San Bernardino and Riverside counties. We are here today because we are here to see the newly elected sheriff of LA County, Alex Villanueva.
And 2 points that I want to leave with you. One is that we are going to physically remove ICE from the county jails.
My name is Mellow Desire, representing South LA. Particularly, I have no problems with brothers and sisters who want to seek asylum in a country that gives more freedom. But what I don't tolerate is that when we don't have resources for Black Americans, especially Native Americans, where because we can't even get jobs because we don't speak Spanish, you wouldn't go to China and expect the Chinese to conform to American. You wouldn't dare do that. So why is it okay here in America? We believe in unification and helping people going through the struggle. The thing is, if you step over us and people like organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, where we can't even have civil rights attorneys to help American issues that most of the lawyers are going to help immigration. I mean, come on, we don't have any resources here at all in South LA, particularly because a lot of the housing goes to our Latin counterparts and our blacks are left out. I'm just speaking neutral. I'm not speaking against our counterparts, but we got to be fair and we got to pay attention to all of it.
Your time has expired.
Thank you. Thank you. Your time has expired. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. We don't want to hear nothing to say. I'm sorry, man, but do I need to play that again? Yeah, I know you in California. You know, I don't know, man. Black people be acting like they don't know what the hell is going on in this country. Should I? Let me do it one more time. It's just the way they cut her off at the end. It's like, wow. Let me play that one more time. Sorry about that. If you're hearing any popping audio, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. Actually, you're going to have to leave the channel, reload it, and it'll be a new stream in there for some strange reason. I don't know what's going on. YouTube, I don't know. I got YouTube gremlins or something. So let's run that back one more time. One more game.
Today is December the 18th, 2018. We are in downtown Los Angeles for the LA County Board of Supervisors meeting. They are holding a Truth Act forum. This is our third such forum, as we were previously in San Bernardino and Riverside counties. We are here today because we are here to see the newly elected sheriff of LA County, Alex Villanueva.
And 2 points that I want to leave with you. One is that we are going to physically remove ICE from the county jail.
My name is Mellow Desire, representing South LA. Particularly, I have no problems with brothers and sisters who want to seek asylum in a country that gives more freedom. But what I don't tolerate is that when we don't have resources for Black Americans, especially Native Americans, where because can't even get jobs because we don't speak Spanish. You wouldn't go to China and expect the Chinese to conform to American. You wouldn't dare do that. So why is it okay here in America? We believe in unification and helping people going through the struggle. The thing is, if you step over us and people like organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, where we can't even have civil rights attorneys to help American issues that most of the lawyers are going to help immigration. I mean, come on, we don't have any resources here at all in South LA, particularly because a lot of the housing goes to our Latin counterparts and our blacks are left out. I'm just speaking neutral. I'm not speaking against our counterparts, but we got to be fair and we got to pay attention to all of it. Your time is expired.
Oh, man. Thank you. Thank you. Your timer has expired. It's called security. Security guard. Hey, hey. Drag her out of here. Drag her out of here. Here's $20. Ooh-wee. Ooh-wee. All of the resources are going to the illegals. No jobs because we don't speak Spanish. No jobs because we don't speak Spanish. What country we in? What country is this? Where we at? I thought you're supposed to be speaking the Queen's English up in here. What happened? Somebody changed it? I didn't get the memo. You got that memo? All the resources are going to the illegals. We was talking about this yesterday. 14th Amendment. Go read that 14th Amendment. This is why I brought it up yesterday. I'm telling you, it's going to be part of the lexicon in a minute. Alright, let's go to the next one. In America, what's going on? What we got going on here? Hold on, let me just mute my mic. Give me 1 second.
Well, there's more breaking news tonight. This on Capitol Hill. The House is giving President Trump what he wants, a mammoth funding bill that includes new money for his border wall and money to fund part of the government. CNN's Ryan Nobles has the latest from Capitol Hill. So, Ryan, this bill passed the House, but at the Senate, does he have the votes?
You know, Jim, it is very hard to find anybody on Capitol Hill who believes that the Senate would pass this, specifically with the margin necessary to pass this legislation. They're likely need 60 votes to get it over the finish line. You know, Democratic leaders have been insistent that they have no interest in supporting any type of legislation, even if it means keeping the government open, if it includes funding for a border wall. The $5.5 billion that was inserted into this bill by House Republicans about an hour ago is exactly what the Democrats are opposed to. And to be clear, Jim, there's also quite a few Republicans on the Senate side that are also uncomfortable with the way that this language was inserted into this bill at this stage of the game, after it seemed both the White House, the House, and the Senate leaders on both Republican and Democratic sides of the aisle had agreed to pass a clean continuing resolution that would keep the government open until February. So the big question now is, what happens next? And, you know, Jim, there are Republicans in the House who believe that this opens the door for Democrats and the White House to begin another conversation on border wall funding, but that doesn't seem to be based in any kind of reality. Democrats have said over and over again that that is a non-starter for them. They felt like they had a deal on the table, and the president turned his back on that deal. And so now a shutdown seems very likely as we are now approaching that midnight deadline on Friday night. Jim?
Christmas shutdown. Ryan Nobles, thanks very much. Joining me now, USA Today columnist and CNN political analyst Kirsten Powers, and two of our political commentators, former Trump campaign advisor Steve Cortez and former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent. Steve, simple question to you. Is this going to end well for the president?
Look, I think it will, because it's going to end well eventually for America. Now, there may be a lot of near-term consternation, and I don't want a government shutdown, and I do realize that it will bring pain to some people, but in my view, it is well worth the temporary problems of shutting down part of the government so that we can permanently shut down what is a porous border that is a massive threat to our national and economic security in this country. So I'm glad that the president said he won't sign this continuing resolution. I think the Senate abdicated its responsibility by simply punting it to February and saying we'll deal with this later because we want to get home early for Christmas. That's not leadership. So I think the president is showing leadership here and trying to force their hand.
But Charlie Dent, the part of the government that's going to shut down, it's going to be the Department of Homeland Security, some elements of law enforcement, healthcare, etc. I mean, these are not inconsequential parts of the government. Is that a price worth paying for the American people?
Absolutely not. Look, this is utterly reckless. We all know how this is going to play out. The House just sent a bill over to the Senate. The votes aren't there in the Senate. The Senate will strip out that $5 billion. They're going to send it back to the House. And if the House doesn't pass it, this is going to shut down. There's absolutely no reason to do this. The president had a deal on border security and DACA, the Dreamers. He walked away from it. The president, like he said the other day, he is going to own this. These members of Congress, they have a responsibility to govern. And this is an utter failure of leadership if in fact we actually shut this thing down. And after a week like this, with Jim Mattis just announcing his resignation, and the Cohen and Flynn and the Syria pullout. I mean, this has just been an incredible week. I mean, in fact, it seems like they're in crisis over there. I mean, order. We need order and stability and discipline, not this disorder and dysfunction, constant chaos. This is just terrible for the country. And I think as center-right conservatives, people ought to stand up and say this. This is not conservatism. This nativism, protectionism, isolationism, and now a shutdown. This is just not in the interest of this country.
Kirsten, you heard Charlie Dent there. He laid out, events that seem a million years ago. General Flynn appearing before a court 48 hours ago. But the series of events this week, is this an administration in chaos to the point where it can't run this country?
Well, I think, yes. I think they've been in chaos for a while, but today it was a particularly chaotic day, and I think that you even see the chaos now bleeding into the right, which we haven't typically seen in the past, where you have them now turning against the president, and I think feeding into the chaos a bit, because that's why he has walked back his earlier claims. I sat here last night saying, we shouldn't chide him or shame him for so-called caving, because he did the responsible thing in terms of avoiding a government shutdown and compromising on the wall, and then he gets attacked by Fox News and Ann Coulter, and he changes course and now is willing to shut down the government over Christmas. So, I don't see any other way to spin this other than chaos, especially when you add in the resignation of General Mattis, which was not just a resignation of somebody who's highly respected. It was a complete rebuke of his foreign policy. And I think that that's the thing that is just the most shocking about it.
So Steve Court, just to defend this for me, Jim Mattis, rather enormously respected. It takes a lot for him to walk out of that door and rebuke the commander-in-chief. You had the president's national security advisor rebuked by a federal judge this week, contradicting the president's claims of FBI forcing him to lie. You have the president now running into a government shutdown in the face of the reality that he just doesn't have the votes or the support for money in the wall. Defend the president's running of this country this week.
Sure. Well, those are very different issues. But if I could start with the last one.
They're all happening in the last 48
hours. Here, which is the wall.
They're all happening in the last 48 hours.
The pace of news in Trump world is frenetic. That is for sure. We could never rest in the news business. But regarding the wall,
it's not news. It's generated by the administration. It's decisions that this president has made.
When it comes to the wall, I think Kirsten's, by the way, exactly right. I think the president was waffling on this. Or waffling is probably too strong a word, but he was at least considering what was advertised as a compromise. And in my view, it was no compromise at all. The president got nothing. He got no funding for the wall. and he got to sign yet another gargantuan spending bill like he did during the omnibus, and he promised us that he would do it again. So those of us, his most fervent supporters, those of us from the 2016 movement, from the campaign, yeah, we were very, very worried about it. I said so last night on the air. I said, I can't imagine, for example, I've already pledged to work for his re-election in 2020. I can't imagine going to voters and trying to explain to them why we don't have a wall in 2020, why we came up short on that issue, because it was the foundational promise of his campaign, the foundational promise of his campaign. And we've had a Republican Congress still for a few more days. We have to do everything possible to try to get this done, not because it's a vanity project or just because he promised, but because it's right for the security of the American people. Walls work all over the world, particularly in Israel. I think that's the best example to look. A wall will work on our southern border. Our core southern border is a national enterprise.
I want to give you both a response, but Charlie's been shaking his head throughout. Republican Congressman Charlie, respond, and then let's go right to Kirsten.
I served on the Homeland Security Committee. I have not heard one serious expert on border security say that we need a 2,000-mile wall. I've never heard anybody say that. What we do need is operational control of the border. I voted for the Secure Fence Act back in 2006 that allowed for 700 miles of vehicular and pedestrian barriers, detention beds, border patrol agents, technology on the border. Yeah, we have to do more. But simply, somebody please define wall to me. Is it just, it's a wall with steel slats, 2,000 miles? How long is this going to be? Everybody knows that this is not the best way to establish border security by itself. And so to go to the mattresses over this, in my view, is just simply insane. We have to get back to some measure of order, discipline, and stability in this country. And it's got to start with the President of the United States. I mean, this anarchy has got to end. I mean, I feel like, there are a few inflection moments.
Charlie, the anarchy that has to end is the anarchy at the border.
Well,
where we have thousands of people.
Oh, come on. It's like, I feel like this is a Charlottesville week, a Scaramucci week. This seems worse. I mean, everything. I mean, the Trump Foundation just got shut down this week, in addition to all the other things we just mentioned. I mean, it just seems like they're in crisis over there.
That defines our border, and it has for many years. And unfortunately, we have thousands of people who the mainstream media promises time and again would never get here. They got here, and they attacked our border.
Actually, the numbers are down, but Kirsten, please go ahead.
It's just completely disconnected from reality. It is not, there is not chaos. To the extent that there's any chaos happening, it's created by the president. And, him sending the military to the border to fight off so-called invaders, which are actually just desperate people trying to get to a safer country, is the chaos that we see. And so I think it was a campaign promise. It's a bumper sticker campaign promise. And he made a promise that Mexico was going to pay for it. Everybody knew that was completely bogus. And that's how he got himself into this mess, is that Mexico is not paying for it. See, we don't talk about that. Mexico is supposed to be paying for this, right? Mexico was never going to pay for it. Now you guys are mad at the Congress for not funding it, and Mexico was supposed to pay for it. So why is this Congress's fault?
Kirsten, Steve, Congressman Dan, these are issues we're going to be running with for some time, but thanks for all tonight for taking the hard questions.
All right, give me 1 second. Nah, just everybody, just give me 1 quick second. Nah, dude, that sound card has its own. I mean, the video card has its own sound card. I think it's button heads with the sound blaster. Yeah, they mentioned the migrants, right? So let me show you something. Let's see if we can find this. Let's see if we can find this. I should have loaded this up. Migrant caravan. Hold on. Mexican border. Let's see if we can find this real quick. Migrant caravan. Because they actually broke through the border. So let's see if we can find those videos. Okay, let's see if this is it. No, there's no sound for this because I'm not hearing anything. You watching this? You watching this? Hold on, let's go back. Let's go. Let me go back. This is why you are at work. Oh, you guys don't know, man. All the good stuff happens when you guys are at work, man. Y'all get off of work, y'all come home. It's like, what happened? So let's start this from the beginning. I'm sorry, I guess it doesn't have any sound to it. I got the volume all the way up. I guess it doesn't have sound. So let's make it full screen. And let's just sit back and watch this. Yeah. We're just looking for jobs. We need asylum. But we're gonna bust up in your shit to get it. All a bunch of men. Women and children, yeah, but if you see, look at this is a bunch of men. This is the Guatemalan border. They broke through the Guatemalan border into Mexico. You guys are at work. You were at work. Alright, that's one. Let me see if I can find. I should have had this queued up. I wasn't thinking about it till now. Give me 1 second, because there's really one good one. Okay, let's try this one. I think this is when. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah. I was looking for both of these. So, let's go with this one. Second migrant caravan smashes through Mexican border. You were at work.
$25 million years ago.
Yeah. I caught that. I heard you. I caught that. So I was like, wait a minute. These dudes look like Middle Easterns. No, that's I think that's over. So hold on. They mixed that in. So let me see if I can find the right one. Oh yeah. Okay. I'm sure you guys remember this one. So let's take it back to a couple weeks ago. Sorry about that last one. Good thing I was.
With also breaking news coming out of the area of Tijuana, Mexico. This borders Southern California. This, as the news has come out about whether or not an asylum deal has been made with Mexico. These pictures you see here from moments ago, Hans Nichols there with this group. And Hans, we were just getting off the air, and then this happened, which you saw and you witnessed, and you saw them begin to move. Where were they moving to, and why with such energy?
Oh, David, the situation has changed dramatically in the last 20 minutes or so. What's happened is that the migrants that were prevented from crossing the bridge, they wanted to come in, go over the bridge and get to the U.S. border, which is right there. Instead, they ended up coming, and they're here in this bridge, here that's trying to cross this river. As you can see, it's quite a dirty river. The smell of sewage is quite strong. So what you have here is migrants trying to make and literally storm the border here. Now, right there is the San Ysidro point of entry. That's the normal back and forth where it goes. There's a bridge above that where they normally would cross, but because that was blocked by Mexican police, they're trying to cross this way. I have to say there's still a lot of obstacles between these migrants and the United States. Yes, we're looking at a wall there that seems to be about 20, 30 feet high. That's the normal border crossing. The people that you see walking there, that are walking along the catwalk, they are just normal people going back and forth from the border. On the other side of this embankment, on the other side of this berm, there are federal police. We saw riot police, and we also saw some U.S. service members, U.S. soldiers, earlier. This is an official point of entry. What the migrants that we've been talking to all morning have been saying is that they're fed up with their conditions inside of the camp and that they want to make their asylum claim in person. They essentially want to surrender. 20 minutes ago, it was a stalemate. Situation's changed dramatically. There's still hundreds of migrants coming down. Here we just see them spilling over, and they're trying to get up and above. Now, it's very difficult to do crowd estimates, but I would say easily more than 1,000 have crossed. That's the situation it is right now, David. We'll get back to you when we get a little bit more. Just to be clear, we are still on the Mexico side right here. On the other side right there, that is the U.S. border. It's maybe a football field away. You can also see right here a drone. I don't know if we can pick that up. That gives you a sense of just how militarized the border is. When I look above me, I see maybe half a dozen drones that are kind of monitoring this situation. What's unclear is if they stand any chance, these migrants, of penetrating the border, crossing that wall on the other side, because this is a hardened, fortified border. This is the part where there actually is a wall, and I would be very surprised if they're able to get through that. What this move will do, David, is it will bring attention to what's happening here, and that is you have more than 5,000 migrants in a camp. They can no longer tolerate their conditions, and they're trying to get across the border and make those asylum claims in person. David?
So Hans, as the reporting has been, and please correct me if I'm off here, that they are processing only, about 100 asylum applications a day. This and the tension, you were showing me earlier some of the Mexican police. There's also the forces that are on the other side, on the U.S. border. How are they going to mitigate this, if you will, escalating into potential altercations? Because that's a concern.
Yeah, well, there were some confrontations earlier between riot police and these migrants. So they weren't terribly violent, but there were definitely clashes back and forth. The federal police trying to hold their ground in full riot gear. What ended up happening was that the migrants found a different way around them. They slipped around them. And as you can see, there's a massive waterway here. It floods if there's a lot of rain and the dam gets released up above. But you can continue to see them heading up there. So to answer your question, how this resolves itself, it's unclear. One possibility is that the 5,000 migrants that were inside the camp may get to basically the base of the San Ysidro point of entry. That happened a few months ago, and that put pressure on the U.S. government to process those asylum claims faster. You asked how many are processed a day. The number we hear is between 60 and 100, but it's hard to get a precise figure. What the Trump administration wants to do is process all of those asylum claims inside of Mexico. If that ends up being what the ultimate deal is on December 1, that means these guys have only 5 days to make their claims in person on U.S. soil. Richard?
Hans, you've been there. Give us a sense of the migrants themselves. Are we seeing many mothers and children, men versus women, old versus young, and what's the state of them right now? Are they clean? Are they able to get the services they need?
Well, they're bedraggled. They do have water. They do have some showers that they can share. You know, this is about a 30-degree embankment when they came down. And when I was coming down, there were several mothers with strollers. We just saw a father come down here. We could swing out. This gives you a sense. That child there looks to be about two years old, being held by a gentleman, potentially his father. It's very hard. And then up here we have some more strollers coming down. It's really hard to do a full census of just what the makeup of these migrants are. You do see a lot of children. You also see a lot of men.
Yeah. And Hans, what's the sanitation level? Because that would be a question, right? As they are moving so many hundreds of miles now, they've been out moving north for so many weeks.
Well, there are showers. There are porta potties. We heard some reports of porta potties overflowing. They're sleeping on the ground. There are 5,000 people on the side of a junior high baseball field in the United States. That's not a lot of people to share that amount of space. They're cramped in there. When you see a lot of the aid workers go in there, and even some journalists, they're wearing masks because they don't want to get sick. But in general, there is the opportunity to get meals. Sometimes they're charged, sometimes they're given away, and there is running water. But I have to say, now it looks like most of these guys, the flow has slowed down here. But what these guys are following, they're basically going over an open sewer here. The stench from this river is pretty overpowering, and they're walking over. We see some people slip in the sludge here on their way in. They're going over this and trying to get up there. So to answer your question, yes, they do have access to showers, but 5,000 people living in that close quarters, there are bound to be some sanitation issues. Richard?
Yeah, so well described. Great to have you there. NBC's Hans Nichols there in Tijuana, Mexico, following this breaking story now as we see the movement right behind him of some of the migrants going towards the U.S.-Mexico border.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this.
All right, just give me 1 second. Hold on.
Great videos.
Hold on. Okay, so they went up to the border, and then hold on. Oh! I killed my link. Hold on. Damn. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Give me 1 second, everybody. Peace to the chat room. What's going on? Migrant caravan. Border Patrol. Alright, let's see if we can find a real good one. Hold on. No, I'm just doing this off the rip. Hold on. Yeah, that lady got famous off that shit. Hold on, let's go back. Alright, let's see. Let's try this one.
Muchos niños desmayados, muchos niños chiquitos desmayados, mi hija también le cayó, mayoría de gente, muchas mujeres embarazadas. empleados y lograron, hubieron de la prensa que lograron echarle agua a los niños. Y había un niño que ya casi no respiraba y hubo uno de la prensa que lo agarró, lo extendió y se lo llevó.
Voy en la caravana, pero realmente yo no sé qué es lo que pasa. Si lo van a volver a intentar o no. Si lo van a intentar, yo me vuelvo a meter y vamos. Vamos en la caravana y no hay fallo.
Hey, quick question. Do you like paying for things that you don't need?
No.
And do you want to get things you love for free?
Who would?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, Apple Music.
He gets it. This guy gets it. Get 6 months free Apple Music on the network you deserve.
The other breaking news we're monitoring from the border, where thousands of migrants from that caravan have now arrived. Some of them breaking through Mexico's police lines in Tijuana. You see that there, surging into the no man's land in between the two countries. U.S. agents reportedly responding with tear gas and completely shutting down the busy crossing near San Diego. The Army now reporting members of the military are on the scene. ABC's Marcy Gonzalez is there.
Tonight, chaos erupting on the border. Hundreds of migrants rushing to cross into the U.S. from Mexico. The group pushing past Mexican authorities in riot gear, climbing over barricades. One group attempting to climb on top of this train where they were confronted by Mexican police. At one point, migrants retreating after reports of border agents throwing tear gas canisters.
And it is a tense situation here right now. These Mexican police in riot gear pushing this group of migrants back. They are yelling at the officers, angry because they say that tear gas injured 2 children earlier today.
This video showing migrants running through traffic at the entrance to the border. The U.S. Border Patrol shutting down the San Ysidro port of entry to cars and pedestrians. It's unknown if anyone made it across. Additional officers were deployed to stave off the crowds. The latest clashes come after continued threats by President Trump to Mexico.
We will close entry into the country for a period of time until we can get it under control. The whole border. I mean the whole border.
This morning, senators from his own party responding.
We would prefer that we keep it open, so let's work really hard to make sure we're addressing the asylum seekers before they actually come over the border. I think that's the intent of the president, is to divert any issues before they actually happen. So, of course, we don't want to see the border closed, but you know what? Safety of our nation comes first.
This morning, Trump again blaming Democrats for the Central American caravan, tweeting, "Would be very smart if Mexico would stop the caravans long before they get to our southern border, or if originating countries would not let them form. No crossings." Tonight, as the border grows more unruly and officers stand their ground, Tijuana's mayor calling it a humanitarian crisis as questions increase, looking for solutions to calm the situation.
Tonight, U.S. Customs and Border Protection saying that point of entry has reopened, adding everyone who tried to cross illegally through those vehicle lanes was sent back. Tom?
Marcy Gonzalez reporting tonight from Tijuana, Mexico. Marcy, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel.
See, they got that cash. Peace. Yeah, we're gonna cut it short. What time is it? Yeah, I'm gonna throw a couple more on, and then we're gonna get out of here because I'm not too sure what's going on here. I have to take the card out, and I can't do that with the computers on right now. Duh. Alright, so let's go to...
The Russian president has expressed skepticism over claims by his U.S. counterpart, Donald Trump, that American forces will withdraw from Syria. Now, the Russian president has expressed skepticism over claims by his U.S. counterpart, Donald Trump, that American forces will withdraw from Syria.
Regarding the withdrawal of American troops from Syria, I don't know what that is. The United States have been present in Afghanistan for how long? 17 years? Every year they say that they are withdrawing troops from there, and so far they remain there. So far we see no signs of withdrawal of troops from there yet.
While Putin made the remarks during his annual press conference in the Russian capital, Moscow, the Russian president says that he agrees with Trump that Daesh has been defeated in Syria, and he said that Russia has dealt a serious blow to the terror group. But Putin warned that the terrorists will return to the countries they came from. He said that this is a great danger to the world, questioning the legitimacy of the U.S. military presence in Syria in the first place. Now let's go to Calgary. We have Robert Electus, political commentator, joining us now. Good to see you, Robert. President Putin says that he's not so optimistic, and let's say he doesn't believe that the U.S. is going to pull its forces out of Syria. As you just heard, he said that they have said it time and again, and they were in Afghanistan for 17, 18 years now. He's doubtful. Do you think that U.S. forces will be out of Syria soon?
To look back only to earlier this year, where Donald Trump announced that he was looking at pulling the troops out, and then that was followed by a Western missile strike from both the United States, France, and Britain. So it's with the United States, we can't trust what they have to say. They never keep their word. They're never an honest partner in agreements that they sign into. So it's a very legitimate concern by Vladimir Putin of Russia, because like he noted, they've been in Afghanistan, how long were they in Iraq for, and they never seem to leave. This time it looks like they could have capitulated to Turkey. Maybe they don't want to stay there for that fight. They said they're going to pull their troops out completely, but will it be a complete withdrawal? Do we know that? Will they just make up an excuse at the last second, pull the troops out so they don't have to defend the Kurds against Turkey and get involved in that and look bad in that scenario, and just remain in other parts of the country? Will they still conduct airstrikes in Syria? Will they still allege that the Syrian government is committing chemical weapons attacks without any evidence and then strike the country? You know, these things all have to be factored in. We can't just take it at face value. And also back in the United States, Trump is facing harsh criticism from people back in the United States, both prominent figures and also, of course, the mainstream corporate media there, about his decision to withdraw his troops. So the pressure could get to Donald Trump. His administration might want to do another thing. We have no idea exactly what the United States is thinking or what it will do. We can't really trust them.
Yeah, I wonder if President Trump himself has a clear idea what he's going to do next. All right, thank you for that. Robert Electus, political commentator, joining from Calgary.
The U.S. President's decision to withdraw American troops from Syria has stirred widespread domestic and international reactions. The Russian Foreign Ministry welcomed the move as a step towards creating prospects for a political settlement in the country. The UK regarded the decision, with the British Defense Minister strongly disagreeing with the White House over the total defeat of Daesh in Syria. The French government said that Daesh has been weakened, but not wiped from Syria's map. Instead, the country's forces will stay in Syria. The Israeli Prime Minister also expressed concern, saying that Tel Aviv will safeguard its security and protect itself. Donald Trump's fellow Republicans at Capitol Hill harshly criticized the policy as well.
The decision to withdraw an American presence in Syria is a colossal, in my mind, mistake, a great error that's going to have significant repercussions in the years and months to come.
If this decision is a withdrawal of all of our forces in Syria now, we're dramatically less safe.
On Wednesday, the White House announced the withdrawal of U.S. armed forces from Syria. The U.S. President also tweeted that there is no reason for American troops to remain in Syria following Daesh's defeat. The full pullout is reportedly expected to materialize within 100 days. Since 2014, Washington and its allies have been carrying out airstrikes in Syria without consent from the UN or Damascus. The U.S.-led coalition is under fire for targeting civilians and its ineffectiveness in anti-war operations. Barry Grossman is an international lawyer who joined us from Bali. You know, this news is emerging in a way that it looks like the U.S. President Donald Trump woke up and then made an announcement by a tweet burst that he wants to pull the troops out of the U.S. You have a lot of people who are disagreeing in disagreement with him, and even the Pentagon is saying that this is the wrong move. Is this a decision just made by the president without any consent with anybody, or what are we looking at here?
Well, the president doesn't require consent as such. He's the commander-in-chief, and unquestionably, whatever his critics might want to say, he takes advice from his inner circle. So, no, I wouldn't say it's something that the decision he arrived at in a bad dream, and then immediately sent off a tweet without consulting anybody. But to be perfectly clear, I don't really see this as news. I don't think this is any more real than the news about whether Jeremy Corbyn muttered under his breath "stupid woman" or "stupid people" as the British Prime Minister was speaking in Parliament yesterday. This is not news. This is not real. But to touch on some of the points, let's look at what all of this means. First of all, most people still don't understand that the United States is not actually supposed to have any troops in Syria. Certainly the Obama administration's position was not to put boots on the ground. And up until now, contrary to what most people believe, the United Nations has never authorized the use of military force or military intervention in Syria. Certainly, Security Council Resolution 2249, that was passed in November of 2015, called on member states to take all necessary measures in compliance with international law, essentially to fight ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Al-Nusra. But that phrase, in compliance with international law, is shorthand for making it clear that the resolution did not invoke Part 7 of the UN Charter, which is required in order to actually authorize and make legal foreign military intervention. So there's no legal basis for the U.S. military or any other military that hasn't been invited there by the Syrian government to be carrying out any kind of military activity in Syria. Those are the facts. And of course, Congress hasn't authorized the U.S. military to carry out any kind of intervention in Syria, let alone a war against the Syrian government. So we come back to the question of, well, what does this mean? Well, the troops he's going to pull out are not supposed to be there. We're told that the U.S. military has roughly 500 or 503 troops on the ground, according to the Washington Post, which also points out that in reality the number's closer to 4,000. And these 4,000 troops are there ostensibly as military advisors rather than as soldiers fighting on the ground, which we also know to be false. Somebody's doing the fighting, somebody's flying the sorties that are dropping the bombs, and it's certainly not a few military advisors. So they're there, they're fighting, and President Trump says he's going to do a complete withdrawal. But let's be clear. When the United States speaks about withdrawing military forces, it never means that they're going to withdraw military forces, and it certainly never leads to a result where we can say the U.S. has actually left. In fact, I can't think of one example in history where the United States has willingly, voluntarily pulled its military forces out of a theater of war, except perhaps Grenada, which of course wasn't a theater of war as such, it was more theater. So that's the way it is. I wouldn't hold out any great hope from this, but we should remain optimistic and perhaps for a moment give the president the benefit of the doubt and assume his intentions are good, and then we'll see a stand down of these 4,000 personnel that are there. But I'm skeptical.
Thank you for that, Barry Russman, international lawyer, talking to us there from Bali.
Okay. All right, let me put a little warning on this one right here, because I'm not too sure about this one. Somebody just sent this to me before we started. So let's skip all the... I only watched like the first couple seconds of it. All right, so let me let this play, and then we got a couple more, and then we out here for sure.
The signs of the last days prophecies are happening. They're happening just like the Bible said, manifesting in world events and conditions, showing we are nearing the end of this age and the coming of Jesus. And now, we have reached the twilight zone in America. The U.S. government has reached a very strange place. A type of twilight zone where it's surreal, with things happening that should not, but they do. To where a Russia-linked media site knows about and reports on a decision by a U.S. president before America's own presidential cabinet, our congressional government knows. And that's a twilight zone experience that seems to have become a reality. And I speak from personal experience. I want to share with you what happened to me this week. On this Tuesday, December 18th, when doing some research late that morning, I went to a pro-Kremlin media site on the internet I visit from time to time that promises a mix of analysis and intelligence, that actually provides a combination of revealingly good Russian military intelligence at times, but along with doses of total Russian propaganda you just have to ignore. And that morning of December 18th, I saw a headline of a video just published there, and it was titled this, and pay close attention. It said, Syrian War Report, December 18, 2018. And then notice this, what the rest of the title said. U.S. local partners are about to be sold to Turkey. So it says Syrian War Report, December 18, 2018, and U.S. local partners are about to be sold to Turkey. I looked at that and I thought to myself, what the heck is that about? I realized right away what the video title meant, that the U.S. and Syria was about to sell out its local partners there, meaning the U.S. was about to leave Syria, turning its back on its ally, the Kurds, selling them out to Turkey. But we research news events across the internet constantly as a ministry, and daily connecting the information to biblical prophecy. And I knew that we had read absolutely nothing up to that time anywhere else on any other news media in any country, and certainly not the U.S., about this. So I just captured the info about the video on the site and moved on, thinking it was probably in the category of some of the Russian propaganda, since there was at that time no correlation anywhere in the U.S. news published on it that we knew of. But then, the following next day on December 19th, U.S. President Trump dropped his bombshell tweets on the U.S., where he tweeted on having defeated ISIS in Syria and that the U.S. was going to bring the troops out of Syria back home. And everyone in the U.S., and I mean everyone, was shocked and surprised that U.S. President Trump had suddenly called for all U.S. troops to exit Syria while declaring victory over ISIS. And then, as I began to work the news sites and collect information on Trump's announcement, I suddenly remembered the Russian-linked media site from the day before. And I went back and looked at it to verify. And I thought, oh my goodness, they knew. This Kremlin-backed media site already knew Trump was making a deal with Turkey to leave Syria. And they knew at least one day, maybe two, before anyone in the U.S. knew. Because they had published on December 18th. It looked like around that morning sometime. But we develop videos as well, and anyone who knows about how to do that or that does it knows that it takes time to get the information and then develop and edit and publish and so forth. So that information maybe came to them a day or more before publishing. So they could have possibly known from at least one day to 2 days before anyone in the U.S. what Trump had decided to do in Syria. That's when I began to think, America has entered the twilight zone, a surreal place with things happening that should not, but they do. This type of thing never happened before in the past, where Russia-linked media propaganda sites knew about and reported on a decision by a U.S. president before America's own government knows. Think about it. In the past, U.S. government and Congress would certainly know about U.S. presidential decisions before those linked to Russia does. But seemingly, not this time. America really didn't know. The Washington Post reported December 19th at 8 p.m. and later that throughout the U.S. cabinet, officials appeared caught unaware when the president's tweet appeared. But it seems the Kremlin-linked site knew. The Washington Post also reported that congressional lawmakers were stunned and angry, where senior lawmakers of both parties said they had no warning the decision was coming, with some demanding answers from Vice President Pence about why they were kept in the dark. But it seems the Kremlin-linked site knew. Senator Lindsey Graham, who serves on 4 committees in the United States Senate, including the Appropriations Committee, the Armed Services Committee, and the Budget Committee. If there was anyone who would ever be in the know, you would think he is. But he complained bitterly, saying, "I don't know what it is. I haven't been briefed. I am completely blindsided." And I think there will be a lot of bipartisan concern. But it seems the Kremlin-linked site knew. Senators told Vice President Pence that we did not appreciate reading about this decision in the paper, but the Kremlin-linked site knew. I myself even knew before Senator Lindsey Graham did, but I didn't believe it, thinking it was propaganda. It wasn't. It was real, because they knew before the U.S. before the U.S. government and Congress did. Why and how, I don't know. But this internet media site that has been reported on as being a Kremlin-backed propaganda site that has a .ru extension in its PayPal information and has Crimea in one of its URLs, they knew that U.S. local partners were about to be sold to Turkey. We live in strange times. That a prophecy about the last days by the Apostle Paul in the book of 2 Timothy chapter 3 of the Bible calls out as perilous times. And the signs that that last day prophecy warns us of describes a time of peril filled with treachery, betrayal, and deception. Why are these the last days, and why are they so perilous? Because the prophecy goes on to say that people don't know the truth anymore. They cannot realize the knowledge of the truth. And that's where we are, in a post-truth era, where the prophecy of 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, says people will perish because of a lack of loving the truth, that they might be saved. Jesus told Pilate, "I bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." But Pilate could only wonder, what is truth? He wasn't able to come to the knowledge that truth incarnate was standing before him. Jesus said in John 4 that those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. And in John 3, Jesus said you must be born again of the water and the spirit. And in Acts 2, his apostles told us how. Then one can live in the truth of Jesus Christ, awaiting his soon coming eternal kingdom, of which there shall be no end. It's our prayer you would...
Okay. I didn't know it was going to go that deep. So hold on one second. Let me just finish it off with this one. How many people remember this lady? Remember Ann Coulter? Remember her? Y'all remember her, right? Everybody says this lady is racist. I don't know. But, let me see something. I always get the name of this video. And it's funny, of the person who did the video. Everybody loves to jump on one Mr. Sotomayor. Everybody likes to jump on this dude. Well, you know what? I often learn that when you get the truth, it comes from people that you would never expect it. So we're going to ask a racist, because this is what people say, this is what black people say, she's racist. Right? Left hand, law of opposites. Let me show you something. Left hand, and culture, racist. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Not racist. Racist. W. Racist. Okay. Right hand, we have a one Tommy Sotomayor, who everyone seems to call him a Uncle Tom, Coon, Buck Dancing, right? So we're going to take these two individuals. I'm going to take Tommy Sotomayor, throw him in the blender. I'm going to throw Ann Coulter in the blender. We're going to put it on puree. And ooh-wee, ooh-wee.
This is kind of a provocative comment in your book, Don. I think it's on page 151. You write that various groups, feminist, gay rights groups, and those who are defending this is kind of a provocative comment in your book here, Don. I think it's on page 151. You write that various groups, feminist, gay rights groups, and those who are defending immigrants have commandeered the black civil rights experience.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated blacks like children and many of their policies have been harmful to blacks. At least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, I mean, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who are desirous of having abortions, but that's, or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. They dropped the blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for blacks.
See, this is essentially the problem. And the Republicans
What have we done to the immigrants? We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country.
But you see, most of us are either immigrants or are the descendants of immigrants. And we understand, not everybody, there are Native Americans in, but we understand in this country, that kind of self-deportation, making things so difficult for immigrants, for undocumented immigrants, that they have to leave, or the DREAM Act, vetoing, threatening to veto the DREAM Act, which is what Romney has said. I mean, and again, we have Governor Romney, who is basically taking a position that is anti a large and the fastest growing segment of the electorate.
Did you catch that? I'm gonna play it again. I'm gonna play it again. Two things I'm just gonna point out if you ain't catch that. What did this dude right here? They don't show his name. I've seen this guy around though. He's like a former economist. I can't think of this dude's name. I seen an interview a couple weeks ago with this guy. What did he just say? I hope you got your pads and your pencils. I'm gonna play it back. Pay very, very, very close attention. What the hell did they just say? I'm gonna rewind it again. 1 minute, where we at? 1 minute 37. I'm not gonna let it go past 137. This is somebody else's video. Hopefully they don't mind. Get your pencil, get your pen, write this down. It's two things that were said. I don't know if you caught it, because I know a lot of people are slow. So let's go back.
This is kind of a provocative comment in your book here, Don. I think it's on page 151. You write that various groups, feminist, gay rights groups, and those who are defending immigrants have commandeered the black civil rights experience.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated blacks like children and many of their policies have been harmful to blacks. At least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, I mean, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who are desirous of having abortions, but that's, or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. They dropped the blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for blacks.
See, this is essentially the problem. And the
What
Republicans
what have we done to the immigrants? We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country.
But you see, most of us are either immigrants or are the descendants of immigrants. And we understand, not everybody, there are Native Americans in, but we understand in this country, that kind of self-deportation, making things so difficult for immigrants, for undocumented immigrants, that they have to leave, or the DREAM Act, threatening to veto the DREAM Act, which is what Romney has said. I mean, and again, we have Governor Romney, who is basically taking a position that is anti a large and the fastest growing segment of the electorate.
The what? You caught it. You caught it. What did he just say? Let's go back a little bit. You caught it. I know you caught it. You and my we can have a private conversation. Let me just go back to that one part real quick. Hold on, let me mute my mic again because I don't know if it's giving feedback.
This is essentially the problem, and the Republicans
What have we done to the immigrants? We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country.
But you see, most of us are either immigrants or are the descendants of immigrants, and we understand, not everybody, there are Native Americans in, but we understand in this country, that kind of self-deportation, making things so difficult for immigrants, for undocumented immigrants, that they have to leave, or the DREAM Act, threatening to veto the DREAM Act, which is what Romney has said. I mean, and again, we have Governor Romney, who is basically taking a position that is anti a large and the fastest growing segment of the electorate.
The largest and fastest growing electorate. Oh, it's all about them Democratic votes, eh? Oh, okay. I see what's going on, eh? What's going on there, mate? I see you hanging in my chat room. Oh man, I see what's going on. Okay, so let's go back to this. I'm gonna run this shit into the ground. I'm gonna run it into the ground. I'm gonna run this into the ground until these dummies get it. So, what did he say? The fastest rising electorate. Votes. Oh, you mean that ballot casting thing that black people don't seem to want to do? You know, the ballot casting thing that you got some of these Negro leader guys telling them don't vote? And everybody gets kind of strange with this whole voting thing. You know, I don't know. I don't know how you lay something down, right? Now I can understand somebody else comes and picks it up, right? And then all of a sudden now, no, we ain't gonna touch that. Who showed them how to do this whole voting thing again? Right? I'm just, you know, I get confused with, like, because, you know, you'll hear one group say one thing, another group say something else, then one guy say something completely different, then this other guy say something else, then this guy would be like, yeah, you know, you should, then somebody else would be like, nah, you won't, don't do it, you shouldn't do it, I'm not doing it, don't do it. It's like the conversation we had earlier when we was talking about the census. I don't know, dude, if you don't want to fill it out, hey, I would rather when they count that shit up, and they're like, what the fuck? We got them more? Yeah, we got one. We got one. Where? downtown, man. Motherfucking Tribeca. What? We got one. So it's up to you. I don't know, man. I would, just so they know I'm here. You know, I mean, I don't know. Once again, somebody showed them how to do paperwork. And, oh, God, this shit's crazy. Somebody showed them how to do paperwork. And now you don't want to do the same paperwork you taught these motherfuckers how to do. Good Lord. Alright. Let's run this one back. I played this yesterday. Let me play this again.
Michael Anton is a former senior national security official in the Trump administration, a lecturer at Hillsdale College, and probably the first person in this generation to raise the question of whether birthright citizenship is indeed constitutional. Thank you very much, Michael Anton. You wrote this piece that I think began this current conversation this past July, and people were stunned to find out that this was not a settled matter. Most people believe this is etched on the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, but it's not.
Right, and I do want to give credit where credit's due to people that I learned these arguments from. John Eastman, he's a constitutional scholar and lawyer, litigator. He litigates constitutional questions. And Edward Erler, who's a student of the American founding and the Civil War era, who's done really the scholarly work on this. I learned this argument from them. They're two of my teachers.
It's crazy, man.
It had kind of gone dormant.
You gotta take a piece of concrete, bust these niggas upside the head just to get them to fucking listen.
Everyone believes that we have a constitutional mandate to allow the children of illegal aliens to become citizens.
And they base that belief on a misreading of the very first sentence of the 14th Amendment, which says all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. They leave out the part in the middle, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. They either leave it out, or they say, subject to the jurisdiction just means you have to obey the law. Well, everybody has to obey the law. If you're a tourist coming from England or Canada or anywhere, you have to obey U.S. law while you're in the United States. That doesn't make your children a citizen or you a citizen. Subject to the jurisdiction meant something specific to the people who wrote the amendment. We know this because they said it. You read the debates over the amendment. They said it means that you don't owe allegiance to any foreign power, to anyone else. You're subject to the complete jurisdiction of the United States. It means you're not a citizen of another country. So it clearly doesn't apply to people who aren't citizens or who are born to people who aren't citizens, who are subject to the jurisdiction of another country. The Constitution is clear on that point. There's no statute that says otherwise, but decades ago, the executive branch agencies of the federal government just decided to apply this principle as if, well, we owe everyone birthright citizenship. Now, why do they do that? Why do bureaucracies typically, in our country anyway, typically act without authority? Usually it's to serve the interests of liberalism. When the administrative state starts doing something that it's not authorized to do and that no one has ever told it to do, you can bet it's not doing so for conservative reasons or for reasons that benefit American citizens. It's doing so for reasons that benefit liberalism, and that's what happened in this case.
So you're hearing the argument now from the usual chorus of dumb people that this, like everything that they don't like, is racist. Right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the purpose of this amendment was to enfranchise people who had been African Americans who had been enslaved.
Absolutely.
And so, in what sense would this? I mean, does that argument even make sense?
No.
And I want to take it seriously.
As you say, though, it's the racist is just a cudgel with which to beat up people whose arguments you don't like. So the 13th Amendment freed every slave. You had a controversy at the time where some states were saying, okay, you can free the slaves, but we have the power to make them citizens, and we're not going to do it. So Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866. The same Congress, same year, that drafted this amendment. That was vetoed by President Johnson. The veto was overridden, so you get 2/3 of both houses saying, free black slaves, they are citizens. And that also says not subject to any foreign power. Well, then some of the southern states came back with, okay, well, 1857, the Supreme Court ruled in Dred Scott that no black person, even a free black person, could ever be a citizen of the United States. So the Reconstruction Congress said, okay, then we're going to put this in the Constitution. We're not going to let you get away with this. We're going to make this undeniable that every freed slave and their descendants are citizens of the United States.
So an amendment designed to enfranchise African Americans born here, been here 400 years, 500 years, is now being used by Chinese nationals
and Russians too.
Russians flying into Guam or Los Angeles to have children here. That would be not the original intent, I think it's
absolutely not. I mean, one of the things that I find incredible and amusing, sadly so though, is the Russia hysteria of our time. Russia's supposed to be the biggest enemy the United States has right now, more dangerous enemy than in the Cold War. we're all supposed to be almost on a war footing with Russia.
Yes.
And the president is criticized for saying maybe we should cool it a little bit and turn the heat down. However, we can't question the practice of Russian women flying to Miami and having their babies to get U.S. birth. So this supposed enemy of ours, it's a sacrosanct principle to allow them to abuse our system by giving citizenship to their children who are born here, spend a couple of days, and then go back to Moscow.
So the real principle that occurs is hurting ourselves. We're required to hurt ourselves.
Hurting ourselves, and of course hurting the president.
Right.
I mean, the Russia story is all about hurting the president.
In America, masochism being the operating impulse of the left. It's bizarre. Michael Anton, who kicked this off, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what's that say? Y'all can see that? You can see that, right? Let me make sure. Hold on, let me move so you can see the web link. Alright? Because I had a conversation with somebody actually earlier today, and it was funny how as soon as this person said they was American, they took the whatever that was before that and just, I'm American. And as soon as they said that, it was funny how all of a sudden they was getting attacked by people. I found that kind of interesting. I just found that interesting. Oh no, you're trying to divide. Like, huh? What? Divide what? Do you know what some of these words mean? I don't think people really do, but let's go back. For those who know law. Oh boy. You should know this one. Right? American. American. Adjective. Pertaining to America. Okay. American. Now it's a noun. A noun. Yeah. A noun. A person, place, or a thing. Okay. A native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Alright. What we got here? Oh, I was gonna do that story. I ain't gonna do that story. Let's go back to that. Let me go to my picture folder that I thought I had open that apparently I don't have open. So let's go here and let's go to, should be these pictures here if I'm not mistaken. Carlos Cuervo Marquez, born 1858, died in 1930. Botanist, ethnologist, historian, military general. The Negro type is seen in the most ancient Mexican sculptures. The Negro figure frequently in the most remote traditions of some American pueblos. It is to this race, doubtlessly, belongs the most ancient skeletons, distinct from the red American race, which have been found in various places from Bolivia to Mexico. It is likely that, we repeat, America was what? A Negro continent. Estudio Aquelo Oh, I can't even pronounce that, so let me not check that out. Let me not check that out. And it ain't that. It's like it's a little blurry. But you can look this up. You can see it. Carlos Cuervo Marquez. You can shout out to Johnny Aborigine. Alright? I'm just throwing this up here for a particular reason. What's that? You know what that is? You know what that is, right? Because if you know what this is, then you know there ain't no slave boats. There was one really good one. Where'd it go? That a great part of America was occupied by the Negroid type. It's the same scientist. This is from his book Prehistoria y Valles, page 137, 138. Right, and where's that other one? Because I had the Waco dog. What happened to the Waco? Okay, let's see. There we go. How many pictures? How many people seen this picture? I'm being funny, but I'm trying to be serious at the same time. I'm being funny by showing you this, because I've noticed that, like, I don't know, it comes up in conversation and then people want to play around with the conversation, so I don't know what's up with that. Yeah, you saw that right. That's from James Woods, real James Woods Twitter. Alright, so let's go to, what's this guy's name? I always get this guy's name. Alright. Arnaldus Montanus. The New and Unknown World. Written when? 1671. So if you want to get mad, you got any comments, anything you want to say to me, hit the brakes. Hit the brakes. Hit the brakes, homeboy. 1671. So this is what you do. Go find out where this dude is buried. Go dig him out the grave and go argue with him. No, I don't want to. No, let's not even go there because I'm not in the mood to. You're gonna get attacked. Right, so let's just blank you out. Peace. You can listen to the show, but you can't. I'm just gonna let you know. I'm not doing that stuff no more. America being an accurate description of the New World. Arnaldus Montanus. I'm just saying, I don't know, man. You know, like I said last night, 14th Amendment is like a Pandora's box. Everybody's using it against us, so it becomes apparent, when you really start reading it, why. Well, not so much why, but why everybody's against you. Yeah, using your stuff. But it's a good book. You can actually read it online. It's a pretty good book. Lots of pictures. Lots of pictures of pre-Columbus, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm about to say Reconquista. Oh man. Jeez, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh boy. You threw me off with that one. Yeah, basically pre-Pilgrims, pre-European, pre-Columbian, however you want to say it. But yeah, this is America, man. Very interesting. Seems like a different America than the one they teach you in school, huh? Alright. They're gonna get mad. So, peace everybody. It is now 12:36 New York time, East Coast time. Wu-Tang is for the children's. Don't forget that. You're listening to TalkShoe.com. This is TalkShoe show number 128740. It's URRTHEBUZZFEED. And, yeah, I think we're gonna just cut it right there, man. Sorry about the little technical difficulties we had earlier. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to fix that now, I guess. Yeah, I mean, what happened? I don't know, dude. Like I said, it's Pandora's box now. So I'm just, I'm just waiting to see what's gonna happen. Matter of fact, let's go back one last time before I finish it off. Let's go to Grindal 61's page again. We want the YouTube, but we don't want this video, so hold on. Everything? Just pause that. Go into the main page.
Maybe someone should let them know not to treat people.
Okay, and here we go. Black American, all the resources are going to the legals, no jobs, because we don't speak Spanish. People. It's about to be 2019, y'all. When are we gonna cut the shit? That's all I wanna know. Somebody send me a memo. If it's still gonna be a party, or we gonna finally cut the shit. And with that, 128740. Thanks for joining us if you're on TalkShoe. Thanks for joining us if you're on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, oh god, iTunes, Shoutcast, oh god. I know I'm forgetting something. It's like, oh god, there's so much. Instagram. Oh god, this is. We're all over. We're all over. This is episode 2 of the BuzzFeed. We'll probably do one tomorrow, God willing. Unless there's some type of issue, in which case probably won't. But we should. So just check out for us. 11 o'clock Eastern. What's that? 10 o'clock. What's that? Central. 9 o'clock Mountain, right? 2 hours. And then if you're on the West Coast, it'll be 8 o'clock. So, I get confused. I'm 3 hours ahead of somebody in California. That stuff gets kind of confusing after a while, okay? I got people, they're in England right now. It's already Friday. No, it's on, right? No, yeah, it's already Friday. I got people in Japan. It's almost Saturday for them, so this shit gets like a little confusing. But the internet brings us all together. So let me play this, man, and I'm pretty sure you guys do not want to hear my mouth. And we are out. Thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in.
Today is December the 18th, 2018. We are in downtown Los Angeles for the LA County Board of Supervisors meeting. They are holding a Truth Act forum. This is our third such forum, as we were previously in San Bernardino and Riverside counties. We are here today because we are here to see the newly elected sheriff of LA County, Alex Villanueva.
And 2 points that I want to leave with you. One is that we are going to physically remove ICE from the county jails.
This motherfucker just said, excuse my language, I'm sorry. This motherfucker just said they're going to physically remove ICE. I'm sorry, I just had to say something about that. They're going to physically remove him. Okay, okay. These are like federal agents, I'm just saying, okay.
Newly elected sheriff of LA County, Alex Villanueva.
And 2 points that I want to leave with you. One is that we are going to physically remove ICE from the county jails.
My name is Melo
Hey, you see how that lady looked at him
representing
like?
South LA. Particularly, I have no problems with brothers and sisters who want to seek asylum in a country that gives more freedom. But what I don't tolerate is that when we don't have resources for Black Americans, especially Native Americans, where because can't even get jobs because we don't speak Spanish, you wouldn't go to China and expect the Chinese to conform to American. You wouldn't dare do that. So why is it okay here in America? We believe in unification and helping people going through the struggle. The thing is, if you step over us and people like organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, where we can't even have civil rights attorneys to help American issues that most of the lawyers are going to help immigration. I mean, come on, we don't have any resources here at all in South LA, particularly because a lot of the housing goes to our Latin counterparts and our blacks are left out. I'm just speaking neutral. I'm not speaking against our counterparts, but we got to be fair and we got to pay attention to all of it.
Your time has expired.
Today is December the 18th.
Thought there was a black and brown coalition, y'all. Okay. Yeah. This is it. This is it. I'm gonna go. I gotta go.
2018.
Oh my God. Oh, this stuff gives you a headache. Oh yeah. Oh. You don't know about LA? Hold on one second. Hold on. Let me see if I'm putting the right title. Let me just drop this real quick. Let me see if I got the right headline. California, African American homes, black homes firebombed by these Mexicans. Here we go. Like I said earlier, black people act like they don't know what's going on in these streets, man.
Seven Los Angeles men were charged with firebombing African Americans living in a heavily Hispanic area in 2014. They were charged in a 10-count indictment unsealed in federal court Thursday. They were also charged for their roles in a racketeering enterprise that used violence and intimidation. Justice reporter Paula Reed is in Washington to discuss it all. Paula, the Justice Department says this is one of the largest civil rights indictments in local history. What are prosecutors alleging?
That's right, Elaine. This is one of the biggest cases that they've brought in under the civil rights statute in quite some time, which is also part of why it took so long to actually get this indictment, approximately 2 years. Prosecutors allege a barbaric plan to attack and intimidate African-American residents of the Ramona Gardens housing complex in East Los Angeles. Now, this complex is about 95% Hispanic and about 3% African-American. First, this group started with threats, and then they moved on to firebombs. And Elaine, they say this was a very sophisticated plot. They purchased disguises, gloves, bomb-making materials, and then they divided themselves into two teams, and everybody had a very specific task. One person, his job was to break the windows, the next person would light the firebomb, and the final guy would throw the firebomb inside the residence. They were even savvy enough to leave their cell phones behind to avoid being able to be traced by law enforcement.
So disturbing. These men, Paula, I understand, were also charged with racketeering, and the indictment says that families, including children, were among the victims. What can you tell us about that?
That's right. Many of the residents that were targeted, children were home. Many of them were minors. In fact, Elaine, one woman, she was sitting with her baby on the couch in the living room right before the firebomb was thrown into her house. Now, other families who weren't specifically firebombed, they reported that mixed-race children were verbally threatened by members of this gang. So it's clear that children were certainly not spared from this intimidation.
Do we know, Paula, has this gang been on law enforcement's radar before?
Yes, the Hazard Street Gang has been on law enforcement's radar since about the 1940s. They are described as a multi-generational Latino street gang that originated in East Los Angeles, and they were particularly focused on driving African-American residents off their turf. And the Ramona Gardens apartment complex is one area where they considered their turf. Now these 7 men face between a life sentence and 100 years in prison. Yes, the Hazard Street Gang has been on law enforcement's radar since about the 1940s. They are described as a multi-generational Latino street gang that originated in East Los Angeles, and they were particularly focused on driving African-American residents off their turf. And the Ramona Gardens apartment complex is one area where they considered their turf. Now these 7 men face between a life sentence and 100 years in prison.
Disturbing case to hear about children being targeted as well. Paula Reed there in Washington for us. Paula, thank you. 7 Los Angeles men were charged.
All right. Okay. Unbelievable, man. This is TalkShoe.com. TalkShoe show number 128740. This is URR Radio. That shit got me so pissed off. We out of here, man. Let me just throw a beat on here and we out. Yeah, I'm on. Take care of the sound card as soon as I'm done doing this.
Oh, did I just knock the sound out? It's playing already.